Have you clicked the go button?
I have clicked the go button as your phone decides to go off at that exact time. I'm just making sure that we're receiving it on YouTube, and yes, we are. So
Send me the link so I
I'll
can
send you the link.
check
I'll
out
put
the
it in
chat.
the Discord.
There you go.
I'll put it in the Skype. All the fun stuff for the people watching the replay of this that want to get all the
a super
setup.
organized start.
Yep.
All right, we are up and running by the looks of it.
Yep, we are.
Cool.
Hopefully everything is working perfectly fine. We're getting audio in, we're getting video. So I think it's all working well.
It's only 2 minutes past, so we're
that's right.
super on time. We could actually afford to launch 2 minutes early because it takes us about 2 minutes once you hit.
Well, your clock's wrong. Your clock's 2 minutes fast on your laptop.
so
Mine's 2 and your phone is 12.
Oh, you're right. We're doing even better than I thought. Cool. All right.
So yeah, seems like everything's going well.
Yep. Now, we've done well to get out on time. I thought I was going to be about 20, 30 minutes late today because the traffic was horrendous getting from my place to Tim's. Tons of roadworks and stuff like that. But we got here. So I think I ended up getting here about 10 minutes early. Or 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes before I thought you'd get here.
I wanted to be here about an hour ahead of the stream so Tim and I could have a chat. But I've basically just walked in, sat down, and away we go. So we've got a few things to talk about. Our volume is extremely low, apparently.
Volume is extremely low. All right, let me turn it up.
Come on, Tim, fix it. I haven't got any earbuds, so I can't actually listen to the stream this time.
Well, I think I've cranked it up a bit more, but
okay.
Let me have a look over here. Yeah, it's well in the yellow zone on OBS, so
not peaking.
Yes.
Even when I get excited about stuff, we should be alright.
Well, that's pretty often.
Well, yeah. Let us know in, well, it'll take about 20 seconds, but let us know if the volume's okay now.
Cool. So I think I've...
Tim's got his, I brought his bottle so he can put that in his set somewhere.
Thank God it's empty.
Like I said, I just walked in and sat down, so we haven't even got a chance to put it somewhere yet, but we'll find a spot for it.
Now you can enjoy the green asparagus juice. Bit of a close-up shot for you guys here. I've actually looked in some Asian grocers for this here, and thankfully they don't sell it because I can't see who would actually want to eat it because it's
Well, did I tell you
horrific.
that I have a package from my Asian grocer at my place for next unboxing boxes?
Oh, you did. Yeah, that's going to be good.
I think ZZR Hardy teed that one up. It's about 5 kilos. It's quite a large box. So he says there isn't or shouldn't be many bad ones in there. So I haven't worked out how I'll go about that. I'm going to film that probably over the weekend. So I might open that first and just sample them as I unbox other products. Because I do have a lot of products to get into and some good stuff as well. So what are you doing? I'm just
posting, letting people know from all the various different places.
Come on.
But I think I'm good. It's on Patreon, it's on the Discord.
Well, hopefully Tim's organised some stuff to talk about because all I did was drive here.
Well, I have organised some stuff to talk about.
Excellent.
Because we have been getting a few questions about the NVIDIA NDA, which sort of has become a bigger topic. You probably would have seen Gamers Nexus's video where they talk to a lawyer about the NDA. We're not going to publish anything on the main channel about it, but it's sort of the perfect thing to talk about in a live stream with you guys about our thoughts on the NDA and sort of how often we see documents that are like this and how it's sort of being, I think, blown up a bit by people that don't really work in the industry and haven't seen these sort of things before.
Definitely. I woke up and it was the first thing I saw, and you guys were already talking about in the Discord chat, so I thought, oh, not another NVIDIA drama, what is going on?
Yeah, a bit sick of that stuff.
Yeah, so I sort of already expected the worst, and because we are expecting an NDA coming our way soon for a possible product launch next month, we still don't know, but...
Yeah, I mean, we should clarify at the moment that we haven't received the NDA.
No, so we haven't had it.
Because we're in a different region to people in, say, Europe or the US that might have seen that, we have to deal with, like, a completely different group of people. So
woke up, had a look at it, and sort of read all the bad stuff about it, and I probably assumed a few things, and then I actually looked at it, I'm like, oh, alright, this doesn't look that bad or unusual. Tim and I then discussed it over the phone, and a lot of the things that were actually discussed in the Gamers Nexus video is what Tim said, which is we basically assumed those sort of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty typical. It's not that unusual. We've been getting these for a long time, and I think the reason they've done it this way with the 5 years is just so they don't have to do it every single time. And it's kind of annoying for us, because every time you get a product, you then have to go through the NDA and sign it. It just wastes a lot of everyone's time.
Yeah, so Nick, I think in the chat has asked, what's actually going on with the NDA. So there was a bit of... So I think it was Highs.de, they published the NDA that they'd been requested to sign. And basically in it, there was a couple of main clauses that people were sort of highlighting as being problematic. One of them was the fact that the NDA lasts for 5 years. And the second one was that potentially, any information that NVIDIA was giving you, you could only use to the benefit of NVIDIA.
Yeah.
And so people were sort of thinking that this NDA was basically forcing people to make positive reviews for any of the products that they sort of are sampling us under NDA and all that sort of thing. And for the fact that, you sign this NDA and you'd have to give positive reviews for 5 years.
Which, I mean... It all comes down to how you interpret that as well, because we wouldn't interpret and go, oh, Tim, if we sign this, we have to give a positive review. Okay, well, we want our sample. Let's do that. Like, that never happens. If basically we're going to give an honest review anyway. I can't speak about other media outlets or anything like that, but I'm assuming, or I'm quite sure they're all very similar to us. We would sign that and then just go about business as usual. And then it only becomes a problem if NVIDIA then says, no, you signed this and you said you would only say positive things about our product. Now there'll be repercussions. That's when this would become a news story and a problem. And that's never happened before, and I see no evidence of why that would change.
Yeah, and I think in Gamers Nexus's video, if you're really interested in how the NDAs are sort of laid out and all the legal terms that are in there, he spoke to Steve, he spoke to his lawyer, and they went through and they sort of highlighted the problematic clauses that people were talking about. But even in the legal definition, even if, NVIDIA sort of was thinking they could get away with giving positive reviews, the actual legal terms that were in there, they're a bit dodgy. Like, they're not the best phrasing.
They would have to, for me, not to sign it, they would, beyond a shadow of a doubt, have to clearly say, by signing this, you have to say, it can only be positive.
Yeah, but there's a clause in there that basically says that you can only, that any sort of your testing, any of your the stuff that you find yourself is not covered under the NDA, or it's not covered under the, needing to be positive towards NVIDIA. Clearly, as far as we're concerned and how we interpreted it as well as them, is that whole bit about NVIDIA, you needing to give NVIDIA positive coverage or whatever, is just, if you leak the information, it's negative to NVIDIA.
That's right.
So by saying that to spread the information positively for NVIDIA means you can't spread it effectively, because releasing it before the release date harms them. So
yeah, I mean, there's not a lot in it, as we've said, but basically it'd have to be worded a lot more specifically for us to raise an eyebrow. Basically, if I signed that and we went about it, then NVIDIA, like I said, came back and said, no, you can't publish that, or you have to pull that down. Or the first thing we would do is notify you guys of that. There'd be a video saying that, NVIDIA's trying to make us do these things. And then it would be a news story. But until then, it's just... Yeah. I'm not even sure why this NDA was leaked initially and thought to be unusual, because this really isn't unusual. I saw Saul Kagan say, you have to admit that's a pretty unbelievable NDA. It's not really. Like, we've been getting these for well over a decade, and they're often worded more unusual, and they're like
there's
much
some horrific stuff
like
in
I've
them.
had ones that are like 20 pages long, and they've got so much unnecessary crap in them. And I mean,
I think it's a contrast as well to a lot of companies that, and Steve mentioned this in his video as well, that a lot of companies, they just give us stuff and they're like, the NDA date is this date, you guys will keep to it, and you're like, yeah, sure. And that's just like a simple email exchange. Everything's all cool. And then sometimes you get these documents that have clearly come from legal, and they've just passed straight through the PR team.
Yeah.
The PR team hasn't read them, and they just do it sometimes. Sometimes we rock up at events and they make us read, like, they give us a big slab of physical paper to read and sign.
I know, it's crazy.
And
it's not like I said, it's not new. This isn't something that's just happened. It's not the first NDA we've ever been served. They happen all the time, and they get broken quite often by different media outlets. People who've been blacklisted by AMD, NVIDIA, and Intel for breaking NDAs, and they don't try and take them for all they're worth, and they don't drag them through the courts. Like, they just say, okay,
even NDAs that are just email exchange NDAs, like please adhere to this date, you're going to get blacklisted whether you agree to that or agree to a ridiculous legal document.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's fairly straightforward, the whole NDA situation and that sort of thing. But I think, the reason why this is sort of blowing up is NVIDIA's reputation is really at a quite all-time low,
which is understandable. They've done some dumb stuff recently.
Yeah, the GPP stuff has been pretty horrific, and so they're clearly in a position where that sort of stuff's more likely to blow up. I think if this was an AMD NDA, and that AMD is a company that's made NDAs that read very similarly to this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
It probably wouldn't have gathered nearly as much attention. In fact, it probably wouldn't have leaked at all. So,
no, I don't know why there's all this drama in the tech industry at the moment. Like, why this is even a story? Why a tech site felt the need to release it? Like, surely it wasn't the first NDA they've been sent. And like I said, for us, it's not unusual. Tim and I both received hundreds of NDAs probably at this point, certainly many dozen.
Yeah.
And this isn't unusual. So,
yeah, I think as far as these sort of agreements between companies and us go, like the NDAs that are just like, don't leak our stuff are perfectly fine. It's when companies come up and they ask for stuff like, we want to read your review before you publish it.
I hate that.
And we want to, go over and check everything that you've written. Or alternatively, it'll be an agreement where, or even just an email after we've published a review saying, we disagree with this particular bit of criticism. We want you to remove or change that. And every time I've been sent that, every time you've been sent that, I'm sure, it's basically an email straight back saying, absolutely not.
Yeah. And when it's like, that's where Julio, the owner of TechSpot's fantastic as well. We've had quite a few big companies as well overreact or have a problem with something we've said in a day one review. And I've gone back and forth with them. They haven't been happy with that. I've CC'd in Julio and he's just told them to get stuff flat out. So that's really cool. And that's another reason why it really annoys me when people always go on about, tech sites being corrupt and they're just in it for the money. Like you've really got to understand how a lot of these tech sites are run. And TechSpot, for example, it's kind of like how AdSense works on YouTube. Julio talks with no one in the tech industry knows him. None of our contacts know him. They just know us and think we're TechSpot, because he does sort of like AdSense deals where he goes through a media company that then do all the advertising that way. And he just says to us, we just want honest reviews. He goes, I just want the highest quality, best reviews you guys can do. And he never questions anything we do. He's never told us how we have to write something. And he takes our word for it every time on that sort of stuff. And I just saw Sal Kagan said, I overreacted to the NDA, which is fair enough. Like, I sort of read it first and was like, what's going on here because of the GPP stuff, and sort of went to overact a bit. And then I read through it and I'm like, okay, this isn't too different to what we normally see. But if you haven't seen a review embargo type NDA thing, although this wasn't really for a product, which made it a little bit weird, but I think that's because of what you said. They probably don't want to do them every single time now. They're trying to do it. Here's an NDA for 5 years. It covers. So if you haven't seen a lot of those things, I can certainly understand how you'd be like, oh my God, they're trying to, tell reviewers that they have to give positive reviews and stuff like that. But it's just not the case. Definitely not the case.
Yeah. And, it's just, like, I can sort of understand, like, companies that, especially for wanting to change the reviews and all that sort of thing, you can sort of understand where they're coming from. Like, they don't want their products to appear in the best light. But as far as we're concerned, we really don't care whether, the companies are getting, a positive review for a crap product. Because if it's a crap product, it's our job to tell you guys that it's crap.
That's the thing. There's always this conspiracy about review sites that are paid for. And you do get a dodgy review here and there sometimes. And whether that was just because they didn't do the right testing and whatever the reasons may be, but it's very easy to spot a dodgy review because it's not like all the other reviews.
Yeah, exactly. It'd have to be like a mass group of people all doing the exact same thing.
That's right. So, if you start seeing Harbor Unboxed, Gamers Nexus, AnandTech, TechSpot, all doing these sort of dodgy reviews or whatever, then it's like, okay, something's going on. But if we're all saying the same thing, then, it sort of goes without saying.
Yeah, so that's a pretty easy way to sort of figure out that sort of thing. But yeah, it's basically, I think a lot of people just assume that we have sort of dodgy intentions and that sort of thing when really, like, are we out there to harm our own reputation and stuff by doing this dodgy stuff?
Like, Joey always says, and we haven't discussed this at all yet. Question is then, will you sign it as is? I mean, honestly, if it came my way, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm going to do doesn't matter what the NDA says. Really doesn't matter what they tell me in the email. We go to their press events. Tim and I sit there and we just look at each other and we're like, and they're telling us how we should be testing something, what we should be doing. We're like, we just want the product. We're just going to sign the NDA and go about business as usual. We're going to do all the same testing we do. The format is going to be the same you've seen every time, and we're going to give you if it's really expensive, we're going to say the price sucks.
Yeah.
Performance is good, price is crap. We're going to say that. And then it only becomes a news story and a massive problem if NVIDIA turns around and goes, but you signed this NDA which says it's only for the benefit of NVIDIA and you have to... Then it's a news story, then it's a big problem. But that won't happen because it never has, and it just won't.
Yeah, and we're in a position now where, if something like that happened, we're not sort of like a tiny, small review site that would just get blacklisted and then have to be shut down. It's kind of, you guys are out there supporting us directly, and we have a fairly reasonable audience that would sort of, spread around that negative news story for NVIDIA. It's not really in their best interest.
They're probably worried because of the way GPP went. They can't get away with crap anymore. I mean, that's been proven. And we were the first YouTubers to break the GPP news. And Tim and I discussed
very early.
Yeah, at least one of
Same day for sure.
Yeah. And we discussed it. We're like, if Kyle's got this wrong, it's going to be pretty bad for us because we sort of vet everything we put out there. But we discussed it, we went through it a bit, and we talked to a few people in the industry, and based on what they were or weren't saying, we were pretty confident that Kyle, what he was saying was accurate, and it turned out that it was. So, but with signing the NDA, we would have signed it. I think that is an honest way of saying we would have just signed the NDA and gone about the review as we would. It hasn't... What they say in the NDA has nothing to do with what we're going to do, and that's what really gets under my skin and annoys me about this, because we're not going to change what we do based on... I just got distracted then. Sal Kane said Kyle Bennett technically has a YouTube channel. I don't think he made a video on it though, did he?
I'm not sure.
I don't think to this day he's even made a YouTube video on it. But anyway, it just doesn't change anything.
Yeah, we just read those and we sort of assume it's all the same. And if there's fallout, there's fallout. If they do blacklist us, not only is that negative for them because we just tell them, but also, we can just buy review samples and work with partners.
Well, that's right. And that's what sort of annoys me when...
we work with so many companies to make these reviews possible.
Yeah, that's right.
That, exactly like with Steve from Gamers Nexus, I bring him up again many times in this stream.
Well, he's covered this really well.
But he got... blacklisted by AMD for his Threadripper.
I don't know if he made that public though, so...
Well, basically, he wasn't being sent samples from AMD due to him... I think he has spoken a bit in one of his Ask GMs.
Okay, I'm not sure, but anyway.
But, I haven't spoken to him, so I'm just getting this from his public stuff. But basically, he was, and AMD got upset with him for his... He did something with Threadripper. I think he might have...
The Threadripper embargo
or something because it was dumb and complicated.
Dumb. Yep.
And then, that didn't stop him from getting samples. He went out and he sourced, Ryzen from board partners. He sourced the APUs. Yeah. And that's exactly what we would do if we were ever in a position where we were blacklisted. But
I think...
it's just not going to happen. And it makes a bad story for the company.
It does, very bad. So NVIDIA really wants to work with us, not so much the other way around. So they want to play ball with us. People think they have all the power and they can boss us around and corrupt us and make us do these reviews that benefit them. All that will happen is if they don't play ball and they say, well, you didn't do what we wanted, so you're not getting a review sample anymore, we're just like, okay, then we get to make a video about how NVIDIA's super dodgy, which is really bad for them, as Tim just said, and then we just buy the product.
Yeah, it's not like these products are exclusive or... only could be given to us directly through NVIDIA. They're retail products. And a lot of the chips in particular that you guys are interested in are the ones that are affordable, not just for you guys, but for us. So,
that's right.
If they didn't sample us a Titan V, for example, but it's not really a card that, no one's buying it. Like, I know Zed's at Hardy's bought one. But,
or two, I think he has. He's another.
But, it's not people aren't going out and buying $3,000 cards. If it's a GTX 1180 or an 1170 that's sub $1,000, it makes sense for us to invest and buy one and make all the regular content.
You're 100% right. And there's a perfect example. We got sent the 7980XE, which is a $2,000 US CPU. I also got sent the 7960X as well, which is $1,700 or something. Yeah. And we got sent both of those. We did one review, nearly $4,000 US worth of processors. And I think to this day it has about 30,000 views. And that was a day one review. So we were amongst the first to cover that, and it got 30,000 views. Then when they released Coffee Lake, I went and bought from PC K-Skier the Core i3 CPUs and got a review up like 1 or 2 weeks after. And that's got like 200 and something thousand views. And it, it cost us $400, I think Aussie, for both the CPUs. Yeah. So we would just buy the cards basically. And day one reviews, I don't really care about those so much anymore. They're a pain in the backside because we get no sleep. We rush to get a review out that probably isn't quite where we would like it to be in level of, terms of quality. Whereas if we just go buy it the day of release, we can spend all week covering it in some way that all the day one reviews did.
And it's all the extra coverage that either does as well or better than, because it's on day zero, as Sarkagan says, it would be bad if board partners didn't sample us. Yeah. I mean, it'd be. First of all, I don't really think that would happen. There's a lot of board partners, and if it takes just one to break rank on that sort of thing. But as well, it's like our day one coverage does okay, but there's so much day one coverage. You can watch ours, you can watch anyone's review and get very similar information. It's all the follow-up stuff. It's respond to what you guys are sort of asking us to test. What sort of is the trending topics. All those follow-up topics usually do as well or better. Yeah. And when you can buy a card at retail, you still have the opportunity to make all those extra bits of content. Yeah. So honestly, having the day one review is great, but how all those other content pieces we can still do if we buy it. So it's that's a threat, but it's not I think big threat.
Given the choice, we would love to put the week or however many days we're given where we don't sleep and get you guys the stuff on launch day. That would be our preference. But all we're saying is if that can't happen, it's not the end of the world, because usually the follow-up content where we can test something out, like when I tested out the tuned subtimings for 2nd Gen Ryzen, that got like as many views as the week I spent testing the hell out of both the chips. So it doesn't matter too much. I'm not going to give anyone a dishonest review just so it ensures, or a positive review rather, just so it ensures that we get the review sample. We've never done it, and we're never going to. And as this just goes further and further, it becomes less likely we'd ever do that, because as you say, it's just so diluted now. Like there's just how many, like when this GeForce card drops, this next GeForce card, there will be hundreds of, probably, I don't know how many reviews, but there'll be a
the
lot.
Most you'll have ever seen.
Yeah, there'll be so many. And I can almost guarantee whatever coverage we do after, we'll get more views. But anyway, that's just...
Yeah, so that's kind of how we operate with NDAs and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Probably covered that one to death.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're always open. If you guys always have any questions about how that sort of thing goes, just ask us in the Discord, and
you'll be the first to know about it if anything dodgy happens with NDAs or any of the big three companies, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, so I think the other thing that we wanted to talk about that we've been seeing a few questions about was our joke video that we made.
Oh no, that's all Sarkagan's fault as well.
So we've got to. So you might know we're going to film a Q&A after this. We've been getting a few questions on the public thing as well that we might answer there. But a lot of people are asking us. That video got a lot of dislikes. Probably will be just a few. It'll probably be our most disliked video ever.
Definitely already is, yep.
It's got 1.7 thousand.
It's by far and away our most disliked video.
Yeah, 1,700 dislikes or something.
And it would have been a lot worse if I had to let Tim have his way.
Yeah, so a lot of people are asking, did we see any fallout from... Do you get fallout on YouTube from mass disliked videos? And, does it hurt? Did we get unsubscribed? Did people unsubscribe and all that sort of thing?
Okay.
So there's a couple of things. The way the YouTube algorithm works is that dislikes honestly don't seem to... Even likes and dislikes don't seem to matter all that much. There's some theories about, you have to like after a certain amount of time watching the video for it to count. You have to dislike after a certain amount of time. But all the stats show that video did really well for us in terms of views. And, the video that we published yesterday didn't seem to do any worse than expected. We had a perfectly typical day in terms of subscribers. We probably did lose a few from the video that
definitely
were upset.
Lost a few, yeah.
But as far as, publishing a video that, we knew would get a few dislikes and people would be, it's a bit of a troll video, it's a bit of a clickbait video. We understood all of that when it happened. So, yeah, it's kind of, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. It won't affect us at all.
It's not the type of content we would make a habit of doing or want to do on a regular basis. But and if I had a chance to do that video again, there's probably a few things I would change slightly. Not much, though. I mean, I think it was a pretty funny video myself.
Yeah, I mean, you would have noticed we did change the title because people weren't... When we watched it, we sort of thought people would get it reasonably early.
I thought the thumbnail and the title gave it away, because I really did. I thought that was enough. And to be fair, I think for a lot of people it probably was. And it's always the vocal minority that you hear from.
Yeah, there's all sorts of people that have never seen our channel before and that sort of thing that sort of wouldn't get it. But, when you started to read the comments and people didn't really understand that it was a joke until the end when we literally told people it was a joke. They'd go through and they'd seen 3D Mark 1999 and they still didn't realize it was a joke. We sort of thought we should probably make it a bit more obvious so that you seem even more of a fool if you don't immediately get it.
I mean, that was the most shocking part to me. It really was. That blew me away. And it probably reinforced why this fake news stuff's so powerful and why it does so well. It really blew me away. But it blew me away the fact that, someone would make it more than 10 seconds into that video and not be like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? I mean, the thumbnail and the title should have already raised an eyebrow. And then the opening line was just so silly I could almost not say it at the time. And then stuff like, we know this information to be true because a booth babe whispered it in Tim's ear. It's like, what the hell? And just all the stupid stuff I said. I honestly didn't think anyone would get a minute into that video and not realize we were taking the piss.
Yeah, I think the main issue is that, and we were sort of playing on this definitely, for sure, is there's so many rumor videos that are literally made up out of thin air. It is literally people guessing, straight up guessing. They have no information. Yeah. And they make these videos. And I don't want to call out, people like GamerMeld or that other...
Well, most of his content's...
Or UFD Tech. Or
most of it's good, though. Most of his content's good. And I mean, I don't even have a problem... I wasn't necessarily targeting him. It was just a general thing. We didn't target anyone. We didn't give hints at anyone.
But it wasn't meant as a response to him in particular. No. It was just... It doesn't matter who's making these rumors. It's everyone, even video cards, even WCCF Tech, anyone. His
video was just inexperience because we were told, and we've been continued, we've heard all these rumors, we've heard these stories from people that we do trust in the industry, but we don't necessarily trust that who told them knew what they were talking about or that they know exactly what's happening.
That's the thing, is that people are so desperate for news on this stuff. And people are so inclined to just believe whatever's out there that you can literally make up stuff and publish it as this is true or this is a leak or a rumor or whatever. And people will just run with it and believe it even though it's not backed up by anything. So you have all these different places that are doing this and it's really frustrating because not only does it do really well view-wise, which sort of, you see these videos and you're like, oh, we've made a high-effort video and it's not doing as well as someone's made-up rumor video. But as well, it just spreads so much misinformation and it just makes people believe anything.
That's the part that bothers me.
So our video, the people that disliked it, the people that didn't get it straight away, are definitely the people that just believed all the rumor videos straight up at face value. Whereas the reality is, you should look at any video, any rumor video, and immediately think it's not true because it probably isn't. And, you have to sort of vet to see how good people's track records are, how many sources they've sort of cited and all that sort of thing. And it's just...
Yeah, the problem is the massive views generally don't do that. They forget 5 minutes later who said what. They just...
They get really good views. And it's It's so hard to sort of, we don't want to make a video saying don't believe people's rumor videos because, But it's just frustrating when you see those sort of videos do well. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think there's too much more you can say about that. All the information that's sort of been said in these reviews, like we heard them or why did I say reviews? These rumor videos, we've heard it all. We heard it weeks in advance, and you just don't want to do it. And
often we don't know.
We were told about 32 core Threadripper 2 days ahead of the announcement, and we were told by someone who would be a really trusted, reliable source. I don't know why they told us. I still don't know to this day. They were extremely open about it. They told us the core count, pretty much everything. We actually were told some information that still hasn't been announced about it. But we were like, well, Tim and I are looking at each other like, we could make a video about this. But how true do we know it to be? And if AMD are going to announce it in 2 days anyway, let's just wait and cover the official announcement.
You need to hear it from multiple sources to make sure what you're hearing is true. And as far as rumor videos, our channel would, if we pivoted to doing just rumor videos, our channel would probably do really well.
Well, we'd have to work a lot less. We'd have a lot more time off.
It'd be a lot easier. But the thing is, we don't want to make those videos. Like I put rumors in News Corner. I freely admit, I do discuss rumors. I sort of try and see which ones are accurate and that sort of thing before just spreading everything. But it's just, I don't find them that interesting.
I don't either. That's the biggest problem for me. I don't get excited about them
because I know just from doing this for so long that rumors are mostly wrong. Or they're one tiny little bit was true and the rest was made up. And it's just, there's not a whole lot of point reading these sort of things because you're going to get the real information when the real information is released, and you can't believe anything before then.
That's how I've always felt, and I always feel like I'm crazy because all these people keep asking me, what about this, Steve? What about that? And I'm like, well, I haven't really thought about it because I've been testing the stuff we have to see how that works and if there's anything extra to learn about it. But I'm not really that interested in guessing about what might be coming because it's going to arrive and then we'll find out exactly what it is. And then I can invest time and energy researching and working that out. So I mean, there are good sources for discussing and speculating all that kind of stuff. And so we're not saying you shouldn't do it, but it should at least be made clear that and I think that's where the game...
It's probably not accurate or might be not true.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I haven't actually watched the Gamer Meld video. No one's asking me about it, so I don't need to comment on it. But I think, based on what people have told me, I think where he probably went wrong is he didn't... I think he presented it more as news than this is just something someone's told me. And I think because they showed him
and it's titled that way as well.
That's right.
And to be fair, we don't want to call him out specifically because there's many more.
He's nowhere near the worst offender, and I mean, I'm not even sure what he's done because, like I said, I haven't fully watched the video. I've just seen the title, and I know based on the title that it's BS because you're not getting official word from anyone at NVIDIA what's happening. And I think at this point, NVIDIA, well, at this point they might be, but back then they probably weren't even 100% sure what was happening when.
Yeah, pricing often isn't finalized until days ahead.
That's right. All the rumors about pricing are just hilarious because it really it's so last minute, the pricing information.
Yeah, and I always think it's interesting to sort of say there's an accurate rumor out there on clock speeds and CUDA core counts or whatever. It's interesting to sort of look at it and say, oh, we might be getting this much more performance or whatever. But at the end of the day, you really shouldn't be buying or thinking about buying a product on specs and on leaked performance because, and also, with all these products, legit rumors come out before you can buy them, especially if you don't pre-order, and we recommend you don't pre-order. So it's kind of you're going to have accurate information on the product before you have to actually spend money. So it's not it's a situation where a product is released day one, there's no reviews, people are buying it, and they're just looking at leaked performance or whatever. Yeah. That doesn't happen.
I get the excitement, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so it's just that sort of thing,
And I suppose it's kind of like everything, someone always spoils it for everyone else. If it was just presenting the accurate, not even rumors, just the accurate information you've got, rather than, how many times did we hear about the 5 gigahertz second gen Ryzen CPUs and we saw performance figures for those and stuff like that. It's just, it gets a bit silly. I mean, we all knew they weren't true, but they still get included in the roundup of rumor news.
And the one thing that really frustrates me the most is there's an exciting product launch coming up and there's a performance leak, like someone's done benchmarking or faked benchmarks or whatever, and it shows like really good performance for the product, like it's a lot better than people have expected. Say it's like the Ryzen 2700X or something, and you see benchmarks, it's like, whoa, it's 50% faster or something.
It makes the reviews difficult then.
Yeah, because it hypes people up for this performance that doesn't exist. And then when in reality you see like 10% more performance, which is still good.
It's still good, yeah.
It's not the same over-the-top level that those leaks show. And it kind of, it not only does harm to the reviews, but it does harm to the companies.
Yeah.
Because they've made actual legitimate advancements with their tech. And these rumors and leaks and stuff are just undermining their work because they're trying to, you know, portray these products as being way better than they're going to be. And so it sort of, it just frustrates me when those leaks hype people up beyond the point that's reasonable. So I guess that's all I have to really say about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I'm just reading this comment here. What's the question? Any ideas?
And yeah, I do agree that the 2700X was, those rumors were quite accurate. I think some of the performance stuff wasn't super on point, but definitely the clock speeds and everything was leaked.
What's Bootman asking? Sorry, man, I don't quite get
I think he had a question above here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I think he's saying he's getting an X470 Type C and a 2700X to go with video editing, and he has a 1070 and 1070 Ti. Any ideas for software? So if you're looking at video editing software...
Oh, okay.
So we use Premiere to edit, but the learning curve, I'd say, especially if you've never edited videos before, is quite high.
I don't know. I found it really easy to jump into personally.
Did you use any software before
no.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. I learned how to video edit on Sony Vegas, which I think is an easier to use piece of software. Premiere obviously has an incredible feature set. Like, you can do so many things in Premiere, and a lot of the more advanced tools we definitely use to make our videos. But something like Sony Vegas would be fine. Obviously, Premiere is also quite expensive if you buy it legitimately. The licensing for us is quite high.
It's not stupid. I think it's about $30 a month Australian. So if you're making money off it, then that's fine.
Yeah. So
never edited anything.
Yeah. So I mean, personally, I think it's always worth learning industry standard tools. So like learning Premiere is valuable because you get that knowledge. And it's widely used software. So it's kind of like if you ever wanted to, I'm not sure whether it's a hobby or a job sort of thing, but you learn that skill and it's immediately applicable. You can say you have Premiere Pro skills, so that's always good. But definitely with Premiere, I recommend watching some tutorials.
That's right. There's so many tutorials. Like, I think that's why I found it easy, because if there was something I wanted to do, and I'm like, I wonder if this software does that, and you put it in YouTube, and sure enough, it does, and you can work out in a few seconds how to do it. So if you were going to do a lot of video editing and you want to take it seriously, I'd probably go with Premiere, just because once you learn one software, it's probably...
Yeah, I mean, all these pieces of software have, they're very similar. Well, not necessarily very similar interfaces, but they certainly have very similar tools. All the things like cutting pieces of footage together are all very similar between all the pieces of software.
Yeah.
So yeah, we use Premiere. DaVinci Resolve is also something that people keep bringing up as a sort of up-and-coming video editing tool.
I've never used it.
We've never used it. It's probably something we'll explore at some point, but just because we use Premiere and we don't have time to like go and learn other pieces of software.
We've optimized fully the workflow there, so don't have our time to waste.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is though, like there's also plenty of tools that aren't as intensive as like a Vegas or Premiere for very basic, like if you just want to cut clips together, you don't really want to do all that much. There's a lot of tools that can do that.
Yeah, much more simplified.
Aren't, a proper...
Yeah, really comes down to what you want to do and how advanced you want it to be and how much time and energy and stuff you're going to invest in it. Michael says, I want to switch over to a mini ITX motherboard for my Ryzen 5 1600. Any suggestions? I think still the best board at the moment is probably the ASRock B350 mini ITX board. Just kicked your heater, sorry about that. I think ASRock's B350 board's probably the best one, but I'd have to do a bit of research and just make sure. But that is the latest information I have.
Yeah, and Sal Kagan points out, just back on our previous topic as well, that Humble Bundle regularly sells Vegas for $15. I assume that's a permanent license. So
if that's a permanent license, then it's probably worth getting anyway. $15. Wow.
$15 over $30 a month.
Yeah, I might actually grab that just to have a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely less advanced than Premiere in terms of its features. So for us, it's not really worth using, but it's definitely cheaper. Yeah, interesting stuff. So
ASRock's ITX boards have a problem with VRM thermal pad fix. I haven't seen that with the boards I've been given, so I don't know if they modified my samples in any way. But the boards I have are perfectly fine. I'm actually using the B350 board full time in my wife's build, and she does a lot of work. Has been perfectly fine. It's actually a lot better than the Gigabyte.
Well, it's funny people bring up the Gigabyte because I've got in my main system at the moment just because my X370 died.
Yeah,
I've got a Gigabyte AB350 Pro 4, whatever it's called. In there. And I have a 1700X, and I've overclocked it to 3.9 gigahertz, and it's fine.
Have you checked VRM temps and stuff?
Oh, the VRM temps are horrendous, but it's perfectly fine. Like, it works.
I was going to say, because that's a second revision of that board, so sometimes they fix things like that.
Yeah, so the VRM temps are definitely 120 plus when I'm, like, video encoding or something. Easy. But it hasn't blown up yet. And it seems to be working fine most of the time.
Keep us up to date on that. What are the temps running on the VRM?
Like I said, about 120 plus.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you say
120
that.
Celsius
okay,
plus.
Yeah, that's definitely nuts. I don't know why they run so hot.
I mean, that's from in summer. It's a bit cooler now because the ambient temperatures are a bit lower. But, yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And definitely the board will die at some point.
Definitely, yeah.
But honestly, I don't care, so...
Well...
By the time it dies, I'll just buy a different board.
Try and kill it, and we'll do a video on how long they'll last at those temperatures.
Well, it's an interesting experiment because I have been running it at those sort of clock speeds for about several months now, maybe even half a year now by this point. So
is that the B350?
Yeah, the B350.
Sorry. I'm a bit slow today. I'm sort of out of it a bit.
So the B350.
So I thought you meant the new board.
No, the new boards. I mean, Gigabyte's X470.
The new board's awesome. The X470, yeah.
The new X470 one's good. The Intel one's less good because they have the older VRM design.
Yeah, yep.
But I mean, it'll probably blow up, but
see how you go.
Well, yeah, like people always bring this up as like, check your VRM temps and stuff. You can't on a shit VRM on B350, you can't overclock a 8-core Ryzen CPU.
You definitely can.
But I mean, to be fair, I'm not running it at super high volts. I'm like 1.36 or 7.
Also, to be fair, if you'd paid for the power supply, the motherboard, the memory, the CPU, you wouldn't be too keen on those temperatures.
No, I mean, that's true, but I think it's definitely an interesting experiment to see how long that board lasts. Because to be fair, like all the components are actually rated to run at a certain level. Like you can run them at 125 or whatever without them blowing up.
Chris says, not concerned about starting a fire. There's not too many things that burn super well in a computer.
Yeah, it might smoke and crack and your computer will stop working.
Oh, it'll send out some impressive sparks, but I mean, there's not a lot to... PCBs they're not a great fuel source. Metal things... I've had a computer catch on fire in a massive way. I think we've talked about it in a Q&A once at one of the LANs. You came to one of the LANs I did at my place. I'll have to do it again one day. But yeah, we had a LAN on like a 35 degree day and a 1200 watt power supply from a really good company went up. I was going to say in smoke, but it was more flames.
Was I there when that happened?
Well, you might have been. I don't... we were playing... I think we were playing one of the older Call of Duty games, and we were sitting there playing, and everyone was having a great time. There's about 10 people there. I think we're doing like 5-on-5 team deathmatch. And all of a sudden, we could just smell this horrendous smell. And because it was outside as well. I've got this big deck area that's sort of, it's covered by a roof.
I was there. I think I remember this.
And so it was sort of 5 versus 5 opposing either side of this desk. And all of a sudden, there was just smoke going everywhere. And everyone's looking around like, is someone doing some sort of weird prank? And I sort of said, is everyone's computer working? And everyone's like, yeah, my computer's working fine. We're looking around. Everyone's still playing. And then we looked down and there's fire just billowing out of the back of one of the computers. And it was Kylie's brother. And I said, are you still playing? He's like, yeah, I'm playing fine. And there was fire coming out of the back of the computer, smoke everywhere, and it never crashed. It never shut down. We had to pull. We pulled the power cord out of the wall, and then it died down, and it burnt the seat it was on and everything. So that could have started a fire potentially. Because, the bottom of the case, it was one of the ones with the power supply on the bottom. And, well, most of them are, I suppose, but it was open at the bottom. And it just completely charred the seat, burned all the paint off it. And
jeez, yeah.
So that was a bit of fun. But that was 4 years ago now, probably.
Yeah.
So I got some photos of it somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Fires and computers, yeah.
You should be right. You should be right. Well, you're not putting it under...
I'm not running it 24/7.
That's right. Well, you might have the computer on, but it's just idle.
In gaming, like the only time it gets up to those 120 is
when you're using it.
Encoding.
Yeah.
Even gaming, it's well below 120.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you're not Bitcoin mining on the CPU.
No, I'm not Bitcoin mining.
So...
Imagine Bitcoin mining in this country.
On a CPU.
Oh, jeez, yeah, I mean...
On a gigabyte... No, I shouldn't say that. I signed that NDA. Steve, you should ask Seasonic for your money back. Too funny. I'm not even going to react to that one. So what else are we going to talk about? How long have we been going for?
Go for 45 minutes, so not too bad.
Getting there. If you guys have any questions or anything, ask away, and Tim will answer them because I'm far too slow today.
We have got that big slab of Q&A questions as well to get through, so there's definitely more stuff that we'll be talking about in the Q&A, which we'll film, so definitely check that out when that's live. But yeah, what else has been happening? I guess, the thing that you guys are usually interested in is what we're working on.
Yeah, I was just bringing up the calendar now to have a look.
So if you guys,
actually, you have to put stuff in the calendar.
Yeah, I'm working on, so I've got at the moment the Dell XPS 15 2-in-1, which has the Kaby Lake G, the Core i7 80, I don't know the exact model name because they're all, the Kaby Lake G ones are terrible, but basically I have that laptop. It's the 65 watt Kaby Lake G variant, so it's the one you'll actually be getting in real products, not the NUC. I know the NUC is a real product you can buy, but I think the laptops will probably sell about 100 times as many units.
These will be ones you'll actually buy.
So it's the 65 watt model. I've been testing it and I've got about 4 videos planned for that. So there'll be the CPU review, so going through all the usual stuff, the review of the laptop itself, and then some gaming stuff. So if you've seen like what I did with the Ryzen APU, it'll be very similar to that. And I guess, my early thoughts are it's pretty impressive for an integrated chip. Obviously it competes against a discrete GPU plus a discrete CPU.
Nice.
Which makes it, it's not necessarily as impressive when you compare it to like a GTX 1050 Ti and an i7 8750H separately.
Yeah.
But for a single piece of silicon, it's like not too bad. So, Sal's asking, what's the ETA for the things NVIDIA? And
well, we've got the things AMD needs to fix going out today.
Yeah, so that's later today, and NVIDIA will be next week.
Then we have a build from Simple Mods tomorrow, then News Corner. Then we've got Q&A part 1 on Saturday, then part 2 on Sunday. Then hopefully, if I get it done in time, which I should be able to, things NVIDIA needs to fix. I'm not quite sure how long that's going to be, but anyway.
It'll be Intel length for sure, because there's lots to talk about.
It'll be at least as long as the Intel one.
Many things.
Yeah.
AMD is definitely the hardest one.
We might even start working on that, jotting down some ideas, because I've forgotten everything we discussed previously just about now. Then Tim will probably have something. He hasn't put it in yet. He hasn't committed to doing any work yet. Then Wednesday,
on Tuesday, one of the Kaby Lake G ones will definitely go out, because I pretty much finalised the testing. It's just about putting together, our scripts and everything.
Yep.
For that.
So then Wednesday, I've got the Ryzen 7 2700X versus the Core i7 8700K, and I think that is in 24 games. I changed around a few other games, but anyway, that's a pretty interesting battle. That one, not quite what I was expecting. The Ryzen processor does well. Spoiler alert. But yeah, it's a close battle, that one. Pretty close anyway.
So that'll be good.
Yeah, and I'll be focusing... I'm going to stick to the same format I did with the RX 580 and GTX 1060 video. So I'll probably discuss 8 of the more interesting titles, and then I'm just going to go into the full breakdown and talk about platform costs and that kind of stuff. So I've got 6 big slides showing all the games at each resolution, and then I'm going to be looking at the frame time performance separately to the average frame rates and all that sort of stuff. So haven't actually started scripting that. I just finished doing all the testing and analyzing the data. So yeah, it's a really interesting one, that. So that'll be Wednesday
of next week. So that's the 4th of July we're up to. And beyond then, it's just...
Yeah, so we'll work it out.
Yeah, so there's lots of stuff.
Content.
And I'm expecting to get a whole bunch of other stuff to review soon as well. The new Razer Blade, I think they want to send that out.
Sal said
and the new Core, they want to send out their eGPU as well. I've just done a video on how eGPUs suck, and I'm like, probably don't send that out anymore.
Yeah.
And also, I tore their old eGPU apart because it was crap.
Yeah, you've kind of closed the book on that one for now.
Yeah.
Sal said closer than the 1600 versus the 7700K. I don't remember the exact numbers on that one, but I'm going to say yes, just because I'm testing with tuned memory this time as well. And I'm only doing the overclocking results. I think I put a graph for that one in the Discord not that long ago, but it's 5 gigahertz versus 4.2.
Yeah. So. Oh, and the G-Sync HDR monitors, apparently they should be available at the end of July for us in this region. So we'll be getting into testing that. And I've bought some new testing hardware. Some of it's already arrived. Some of it's still coming in the post that will do response time and input lag. Those are the two main ones.
I'm excited at the moment. This will be good.
So we've got the oscilloscope. The sensor is coming in the post. And I need to buy a CRT monitor to do the input lag properly. Not doing any of the sort of click, flash, slow motion camera stuff. There's other ways to do it. And yeah, that HDR testing is one thing that we won't be doing for a while. And it's sort of looked into it, but it's way too early.
I think
way too early.
I think it's way too early.
Speaking to NVIDIA, speaking to the display manufacturers, speaking to people that do it, for cinema companies, it's just not happening. Like it's unless you've got a TV, which they seem to have been sort of a different tech, so they kind of dialed that one in a bit. But with monitors, there's a lot of problems, not just with the sensors that we used to test with, but how you get the metadata to the monitor to tell it to do HDR.
Yeah.
You need right now the hardware is really expensive to do it. To sort of even just sending the signals is expensive. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that one too much. Nick says, can you convince Simple Mods to pop into the Discord? Can we invite people into the Discord? Can you just generate we
can generate a link.
Okay, yeah, we'll get Alex in there. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to pop in from time to time and have a chat. He's a really nice guy. So, yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. Thanks, Nick.
Haven't heard anything on the CG32, which Nick asks. I'll have to follow up with them again on that one.
Okay.
CRT with NVIDIA cards, they don't have RAM DACs anymore. Yeah, I mean, the thing with monitor response time is you actually don't need to use current hardware to test it. You can use literally anything to test input lag, simply because all your testing is from the monitor onwards in the processing pipeline. So we'll just be using basically literally whatever works. And the reason why you can use the CRT is because CRTs have no input lag. Or they do have input lag, but it's like orders of magnitude lower than LCDs. So basically you can compare an LCD to a CRT, and that will give you sort of a rough estimate of what the LCD... Well, not rough, you can get it quite dialed in to the LCD's response times. So I think CRTs have like a microsecond level response time, whereas LCDs are millisecond, so that gives you that large distinction. And plus, if you test it the same way every time, you get numbers that will sort of differ between different monitors, and that's all that matters the most.
That's the main thing.
And if you've got that extra couple of microseconds from a CRT. So anyway, I actually have to go find a CRT because they kind of... you can't just buy one new anymore for good reason, because it's
that may be the hardest component to track down.
Because apart from input lag, they are a terrible, terrible technology.
I'll get you a 19-inch one and make you carry it around.
One of my mates got me for my birthday like many years ago. He's like, as a joke, he gave me a CRT monitor, and this is well into like when LCDs were a thing. Yeah. And he was like, enjoy having to pay to dispose this now.
Good friend.
Yeah, good mate. And that's sitting in my garage for a long time.
That's probably a question for you.
Which one? People seem to see top performance as what they're getting. CPU, GPU is not usually the case. Its monitor has the dominance in FPS. Not quite sure what you mean by that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I guess if you mean like if your monitor is capping out your
frame
rate or something.
So if you have a 60 hertz.
Yeah,
I've been trying to get Tim to do this video for so long.
So this is the final statement on this until I make the video. If you have a monitor that runs at a capped 60 hertz or whatever, if you run at a much higher frame rate with VSync off, you'll have much better response time. Much better input lag.
Input lag's the killer. Well,
it's not really input lag. It's like your mouse responsiveness and sort of how quickly you can get that responded to.
It's hugely noticeable in like fast-paced first-person shooters.
If you run CS:GO at 500 FPS on a 60 hertz monitor compared to 60 FPS on a 60 hertz monitor, there is an enormous difference.
Massive.
And you don't even need to test it. You can feel it straight away.
Yeah.
So
it's like being drunk opposed to not being drunk playing.
Obviously, it's better to have a higher refresh rate monitor because then you can run natively and you get the frames literally at your face properly.
Yeah.
And with...
That's preferable, but...
Because if you run a 60 hertz monitor at 500 FPS with VSync off, you'll get mad tearing. But you will be getting much faster response. And there's things you can do. There's like fast sync or something. But yeah.
Well, I play on that 4K monitor that you reviewed, and I don't use VSync on that, and I rarely notice tearing with it. It's really good.
It depends on the game. I've found some games seem to be like I know it shouldn't work like this, but there's just some games that seem to be much more prone to tearing than others.
I've been playing Fortnite at like 200 FPS on it and like 0 tearing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean sometimes the tearing's only like micro tears and you don't know.
But you're absolutely right, because I've seen some games where it's just like horrendous tearing. It's like unplayable. So I don't know why it is game dependent. Don't know. Haven't looked into it.
So yeah. So Joey asks, does FastSync work beneath the monitor's refresh rate? It's not really ideal for running below, because the idea is that if you're running higher than your monitor's refresh rate, it still renders as many frames as possible. It just saves so it sort of saves up the most recent frames into a buffer, and then when the display is ready to refresh, it sends the most recent fully rendered frame to the display, so you don't get tearing, and it displays the most recent one.
Yep.
But it doesn't really have an advantage below the refresh rate, because you're just saving frames to use, even though your monitor's actually refreshing faster than the buffer's filling. So, yeah. Basically, I wouldn't see why you would use it.
Yeah. Well, Dan said, looks like I should turn down my PUBG settings then. Yeah. I mean, if I was playing PUBG, it's not a fast-paced first-person shooter. I suppose if you get into a close quarters battle, it can be. But if I was playing that game, I wouldn't want to be doing it at 60 FPS. Any first-person shooter, I don't really want to be playing at 60 FPS. So,
yeah, no, it's like above for sure.
Even like 90, I find is like just so much better. So,
what games actually use FastSync? I believe that it's one of those things you can force on.
Okay, I'm not.
But
sure.
I haven't looked into it too much.
It's not something I use for benchmarking. So,
but, yeah, I like to. Well, I'm one of those people. I like to run, fast-paced games. Definitely ones like 100 FPS. I've got a 100 hertz monitor, so I sort of target around 100.
Yeah.
And Fortnite, obviously, you can just run whatever. But for less like Assassin's Creed Origins, for example, I comfortably played that at like 40 to 50 FPS, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, I
have a G-Sync monitor.
It's fast-paced first-person shooters. The same as like StarCraft. Yeah. You can play. StarCraft is you want at least 40 FPS in that, because then it gets hard to select units and do things. But 60 FPS in all those games is perfectly fine.
Yeah, and it's just, I like seeing the high quality settings, the high graphic settings and stuff. I'm just one of those people that I'd prefer to play at ultra than medium if I can, so I do.
Yeah, it's like if you're playing Star Wars Battlefront single player, you'd sacrifice FPS for the experience, the image quality. But if you're playing the multiplayer...
Yeah, even in multiplayer, I can easily hit 100 FPS with everything ultra anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's a well-optimized title, but...
Yeah. So we're almost approaching an hour. We should probably wrap this one up and go get some lunch.
I'm pretty hungry, and I might get some Panadol with my lunch. I feel like I've got a hangover.
Every time you come here, you absolutely raid my Panadol.
Oh, it's Terrible.
Does driving give you a headache or something? Like just
maybe coming to visit you for
half a day. It's horrific coming here.
The traffic was really bad this morning though. I left. It took me a while to get here. If I left just after 9, when did I get here?
It took you almost 2.5 hours, which is
a little worse than normal.
Should be an hour and 40, hour and 50.
So yeah, it sucked. Stupid traffic. Anyway,
we'll probably leave it there just as we approach the hour. Thanks everyone for joining us. All you guys who support us on Patreon, we always really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll check out our Q&A as well for some of the more general questions that we'll be asking in there. And we'll be back next month. I do have one last question. Sal asks, when are you going to make Tinder's PC case Lego build? That is happening. That is in my ideas. It's definitely happening.
Okay.
I'll be designing that in the Lego designing application. So we'll see you guys next month.
See you guys.